We're going to look at an option that's within the pocketing toolpath that allows you to create a separate finish operation. And what that will do is it will actually create two operations. One that will rough out your pocket, and then a second operation that you can modify the parameters for finishing, such as using a separate tool for the finish operation. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use the same file that we had used before. It's the file with the pectoral cycle in it. I'm going to select my pocketing icon, and I'm going to chain my pockets, just like I had done before. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to pick my points. I'll accept it. I'll select a tool from the library, scroll down, and for this operation, let's use a 1/2 inch end mill. I'm going to move on to my pocketing parameters. I'll set my depth, which will be down here at -1 inch. I'll leave 25 thousandths in X and Y. I'll let it cut the full depth in Z, so no extra stock in Z. I'll give it depth cuts. Let's give it 0.375. And one finish cut. Let's make that 25 thousandths. We'll accept that. Now here's where you can create the additional finishing operation. So go ahead and we'll check this box. I'll move on to my roughing finishing parameters. I'm going to use parallel spiral. I'll make this about 60%. Spiral inside to out. Machine finish passes after roughing all pockets, and machine finish passes only at the final depth. I'll use the lead in, lead out. I'll check this. I'm going to set this down to about 30% of the tool diameter. Same here for the arc. Carry it over to the other side. Accept that. Now watch what happens when I click OK. Now right here is the toolpath that we're working on. I do that, and now you'll see that it created two sets of toolpaths. So now what I'm going to do is go into the parameters of the second one, open that up. Now you'll see that the roughing portion of the toolpath is automatically unchecked. So all it's looking at is the finish operation. Come over to the pocketing parameters page, and it automatically took the stock to leave down to 0. It gives me the option of whether I want to use depth cuts. I'll uncheck this. I won't need it. Go back to my toolpath parameters page, and I'm going to select a different tool. And let's finish this one up with a 3/8 end mill. Accept it, and then regenerate it. Okay, so now I'm going to click on my toolpath group so all of them are checked. I'm going to go into Verify. Now if you get a block of material instead of a round cylinder, go into the Configure page. We'll toggle this to cylinder. The cylinder axis is Z, and we'll use stock setup values. I want to change tool colors, and I'll accept that. I could also go in here and change colors for my stock. Let's make this a little bit lighter color. And my first tool, second tool, third tool. All right, let's slow this down. So the first thing we should see is going to be the drill. I'll play it. It comes through and it drills the 3 holes. Machining the pockets out with my second tool. Cleans out the next one and this one. I'll start slowing it down a little bit. Now it should change tools and does our finishing pass. So what this allows you to do when creating a pocket toolpath, if you don't want to rough and finish a pocket with the same tool, you could just toggle that option on and it will create a second toolpath using the same geometry as you had selected for the first one, and all you need to do is go back and just alter it and regenerate it. This option can prove to be quite handy, so practice it a few times before moving on. We're going to take a look at an option within the pocketing toolpath that allows you to create a separate finishing operation. This feature will actually create 2 separate operations. The first operation would be roughing out the pocket. The second operation would be one that you can modify the parameters so that it would be more appropriate for finishing the pocket, including changing and using a separate tool. For this example, we'll use the same file that we used before. It's the one that already has the PEC drill cycle in it. I'm going to right-click in the white area of my Operations Manager, Mill Toolpaths, Pocket. Make sure C-plane chaining is selected, and I'll come over and chain just like I did before. Switch over to picking points. I'll get this point right here. Make sure I lock in on the point and not the midpoint. And click OK. I'll select a tool, and this time I'm going to use a 1/2-inch end mill. I'm going to go down to my cut parameters, standard pocket. I'm going to leave 20 thousandths on the walls. I'll cut all the way down to the floor. And here is where I can tell it to create an additional finishing operation. I'll toggle this on. I'm going to jump over to my linking parameters. And for my depth, I'll select right down at the bottom of my pocket. And that enters a -1 inch. We'll jump over to depth cuts, activate it, and I'll use maximum depth of 0.250. Go into roughing, and for my cutting method, I'll pick parallel spiral. I'm going to bring my step over percentage down to about 60%. I'll spiral inside to out. Move on to my finishing parameters page. And I'm going to machine finish passes after roughing all pockets and machine finish pass only on the final depth. I'll go into lead in, lead out. And my length I'll specify 30%. Arc, 30% of the tool. And my arc sweep, I'll make that 90%. And then carry it over. Now I'm going to slide this over, and right over here you can see the toolpath that we're working on right now. Now watch what happens when I select the OK button. Now what you see are 2 pocketing operations that have been created. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to access the parameters on the second pocketing operation that was created. And if you look on the roughing page, you'll see that it's unchecked. So it automatically deselected the roughing operation. Back on my cut parameters, you'll see that the stock to leave on the walls is now 0. So it automatically brought this down to net. I'm going to go over to my depth cuts, and I'm going to disable it. I'm going to leave the finishing as it stands. My lead in, lead out will be fine. I am, however, going to change tools, and I'm going to use a 3/8 end mill. And I'll click OK and regenerate. Now I'm going to select all of my operations. I'm going to access verify. Now if by chance the stock being displayed on your monitor is not round, access the options within verify. I'm going to switch it. So if you're getting something like this, go into your options, switch to cylinder, use stock setup values, and while you're in here, also go down to miscellaneous options and check change tool color and click OK. I'm going to keep the quality up, turn the speed down just a little bit, and let's play it. The holes, there's the entrance for a roughing tool. And you can see the 1/2-inch flat end mill right down over here. Tool number 2. roughs it out, goes in the next pocket, and the next pocket. And now there is our finishing operation with the 3/8 end mill. Okay. So what this option allows you to do is when you create a pocketing toolpath, it creates two of them. One that you keep as your roughing operation, and the second one you modify for the finish. This can be extremely handy when you don't want to be finishing your operation with the same tool that you're roughing with, especially in high quantity situations.